My husband filed for divorce without telling me. Confused, I hired a lawyer to investigate. What he discovered was shocking. My husband was living with another woman and had been for years. When I showed up at their house, he said, "You weren't supposed to find out." I was in the middle of making dinner when I heard a knock at the door. I wiped my hands on a towel, expecting it to be a delivery or a neighbor, but instead, I was handed an envelope. The words divorce papers were stamped across the front. At first, I thought there had been a mistake. My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 22 years. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but we weren't fighting, and nothing seemed wrong. So why was I holding legal documents telling me that my marriage was over? Confused, I tried calling him. No answer. I sent a text. Nothing. I checked his location on our shared family app, disabled. That's when I felt it. A strange, sinking feeling in my stomach. Something wasn't right. The next day, I went to his office, only to be told by the receptionist that Daniel hadn't worked there in months. Months. My mind raced. Every morning, I watched him leave for work. We had coffee together, sometimes even breakfast. He carried his briefcase, kissed me goodbye, and walked out the door as if everything was normal. So where had he been going? I hired a lawyer, more out of confusion than anything else. I needed answers. When I met with him, he flipped through the paperwork and frowned. "Your husband filed for divorce 6 months ago," he said, looking up at me. "He had you served just now because the case was nearing its deadline." 6 months ago. That meant he had been planning this for half a year without saying a word to me. My hands were shaking as I asked the question I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to. "Can you find out where he's been living?" My lawyer had contacts, people who could pull records and find addresses quickly. A few days later, he called me into his office. His expression was serious as he handed me a slip of paper. An unfamiliar address was written on it. "This is where he's been staying," he said. Then, after a pause, he added, "You're not going to like what you find." I drove there that evening, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear my own thoughts. The neighborhood was nice. Too nice. The kind of place that required 2 incomes or a very comfortable salary to afford. I parked down the street and watched the house. Lights were on inside. A shadow passed by a window. My husband's shadow. And then, another figure appeared beside him. A woman. She laughed, placing a hand on his chest. I gripped the steering wheel. My world felt like it was tilting. My husband, had been living with another woman for months. Maybe longer. I got out of the car. I walked up to the front door, my hands shaking as I rang the bell. Footsteps approached. The door swung open. Daniel's face went pale. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. You weren't supposed to find out," he stammered. The woman appeared behind him, confusion on her face. "Who is this, Daniel?" I took a deep breath, my anger, betrayal, and heartbreak all colliding at once. "I'm his wife." For a moment, everything was silent. Daniel looked like he wanted to shut the door in my face, but I took a step forward, refusing to let him. The woman behind him stared at me, then at him, her face turning pale. "Wife?" she whispered, like the word didn't make sense to her. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, his eyes darting around like he was searching for a way out. "Listen, I can explain." My voice was shaking, but I held my ground. "Explain what, Daniel?" "That you filed for divorce behind my back. That you've been living here with her while coming home to me like nothing was wrong." The woman, still standing behind him, took a step back. Her expression shifted. Like she was suddenly realizing she was part of something awful. "Wait," she said, her voice trembling. "You mean, she didn't know?" I turned to her. "No, I didn't." "Who are you?" She swallowed hard. "I'm Sophia." She looked at Daniel again. "You told me you were divorced last year." "Last year?" That meant he had been lying to both of us. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the stomach. I had been cooking him dinner, washing his clothes, planning vacations, all while he had another life just a few miles away. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Daniel sighed, his shoulders slumping. 3 years, he admitted. I felt the air leave my lungs. 3 years. Sophia gasped, stepping away from him like he was something disgusting. "You told me you were separated," she yelled. "That the divorce was just paperwork." I let out a bitter laugh. "Looks like you were lied to, too." She shook her head in disbelief. I thought we were building a life together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But instead, I turned back to Daniel and asked the one question that had been burning inside me. Why? Why not just tell me? His eyes flickered with something, guilt, maybe, but not enough of it. I didn't know how, he muttered. I thought, if I waited long enough, it would just work itself out. Work itself out? Like our marriage, like my life, was some minor inconvenience he could sweep under the rug? Before I could respond, Sophia stormed past him and grabbed her purse off a table near the door. I can't believe this, she hissed. I gave up everything for you. I thought you loved me. Daniel reached for her, but she yanked her arm away. Don't touch me. She turned to me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. I'm so sorry. I really didn't know. I nodded stiffly, not sure how to feel about her. She was a victim in this too, but it didn't change the fact that she had been with my husband for years. She grabbed her keys and walked out. I took a deep breath and looked at Daniel. Do you even feel bad? He let out a heavy sigh. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. That was all he had to say. Not I'm sorry, not I messed up, just I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I shook my head. You're pathetic. Then I turned and walked away, my hands shaking as I reached my car. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I want to fight this, I said. He sighed. I understand you're hurt, but legally, I don't care about the legal stuff, I interrupted. I want to know everything. Where our money has been going. What he's been spending it on. If he used our finances to support his other life. There was a pause. Then he said, that I can look into. And so the investigation began. Over the next few weeks, I learned more than I ever wanted to. Daniel had been funneling money into a separate account for years. He had paid for expensive vacations, jewelry, and even helped Sophia with her mortgage, all while telling me we needed to budget carefully. It got worse. One day, my lawyer called and told me to meet him in his office immediately. When I arrived, he slid a stack of papers across the desk. You need to see this, he said. I flipped through them. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then, it hit me. Daniel had taken out loans. Big ones. And he had used my name on some of them. I felt sick. How did I not see this? He was careful, my lawyer said grimly. But this is illegal. He forged your signature on some of these documents. The anger inside me boiled over. He hadn't just betrayed me, he had put me in financial danger. Can we take action? I asked, my voice shaking. My lawyer nodded. We can. But it's going to be a battle. A battle. Fine. Daniel had wanted to keep me in the dark. He thought I would just disappear quietly. He had no idea who he was dealing with. The next time I saw Daniel, he was acting like nothing had happened. He had moved back into our house temporarily, claiming he needed time to sort things out. He sat at our kitchen table, drinking coffee like it was any other morning. I dropped the folder of financial documents in front of him. Explain this. His face drained of color as he flipped through them. I can fix this, he stammered. Fix it? I laughed coldly. You stole from me. You filed for divorce in secret. You lied to both of us. And now you want to fix this? He had no words. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice calm but firm. You are going to sign over your share of the house to me. You are going to pay me back every cent. And you are going to leave my life. He looked at me like I had grown two heads. You can't force me to do that. I smiled. No. Because my lawyer says otherwise. His face twisted in panic. You wouldn't. Watch me. Daniel thought he could control everything. But he had underestimated me. As the legal battle unfolded, I found more and more skeletons in his closet. Every lie, every deception, every stolen dollar, everything he had hidden for years was finally being exposed. And I wasn't stopping until I got what I deserved. This wasn't just about divorce anymore. This was about justice. Daniel thought he was smart. He thought he had planned everything so well that I would quietly disappear while he moved on with his secret life. But he underestimated me. I wasn't just going to walk away, I was going to make sure he regretted every single choice he made. The first thing I did was take complete control of our home. My lawyer moved fast. With proof that Daniel had used my name to take out loans, we had leverage. He had committed fraud, and if he didn't cooperate, we would take it to court. When he realized what I had on him, he panicked. "I'll pay you back," he said, looking desperate. "Just give me time." I crossed my arms. "You had 3 years to think about this. Time's up." Under pressure from my lawyer, Daniel signed over the house to me. That was step 1. Step 2. Exposing everything. Daniel had always cared about appearances. He liked being respected in his social circle. He wanted people to see him as a successful businessman with a stable life. So I made sure they knew the truth. I didn't have to spread rumors, I let facts do the talking. His family. I sent them copies of the financial documents. His parents were furious. They had always thought I was the perfect wife, and now they knew their son was a liar. His mother called me, crying, saying she had no idea what he had done. His friends. I casually mentioned the situation to a few key people. The news spread fast. People who once respected him suddenly saw him for who he really was. His job. That was the best part. Remember when I went to his office and was told he hadn't worked there for months? Well, I found out why. He had lied on some of his company's financial reports. I didn't even have to do anything, his old company had already been investigating him. When I sent over the proof of his fake loans and secret accounts, it was the final nail in the coffin. Within weeks, he was fired. Losing his job meant Daniel was in trouble financially. His savings were nearly gone, probably spent on his secret life with Sophia. And now, with no steady income, he was struggling. But that wasn't my problem. Since I had proof that he had taken loans in my name, I took him to court. He had to pay them all back himself. No more expensive vacations. No more fancy dinners. No more new suits and watches. Everything he had stolen. He was paying it back. And I made sure the court ruled that he had to send me monthly payments until every cent was returned. Sophia wanted nothing to do with him after our confrontation. She had believed he was an honest man, but once she learned the truth, she left him. He had no wife. No girlfriend. No job. No money. And no home. Since he signed over the house to me, he had nowhere to go. I heard from mutual acquaintances that he was staying with a distant cousin, barely making ends meet. As for me, I thrived. Once the divorce was finalized, I changed my last name back. I renovated my house, getting rid of every trace of Daniel. I traveled, reconnected with old friends, and found happiness in ways I never expected. And every month, like clockwork, I received a check from him. A reminder that he had tried to destroy my life, and instead, he had ruined his own. I never looked back.